Hi, everyone. Okay. Okay. Woo. I'm sorry. Okay. Is this lack of sleep, guys? Okay. Hey, everyone. Elsie Jensen here. Today we are making chicken pesto bowls with potatoes, green beans, spinach, a little pesto sauce, and then we are going to make mango crisp. That's what I was laughing about because my husband was making fun of my mango crisp. Okay, let's start by getting the potatoes roasted up in the oven because we're going to be cooking them at 350 since that's what my crisp has to cook at. So they're going to need a little bit longer. So I'm going to have then quarter, and then we'll slice them up into nice little pieces so that they'll kind of crisp up nice. And then we'll toss them with some spices and have them going in there. So there we go. And quarter. Going up, and I'm using these are, I've got a red potato and a gold potato. They're like the new potatoes, so they've got a nice kind of waxy inside to them, but they'll roast up nicely. Here. And the one thing that's nice about them also is their skins are so tender. You don't have to peel them. They stay nice and like soft. There we go. And this one, we might have to more than just quarter it because it's pretty big. We're gonna third it. Okay, and last one before we get these seasoned up and pop them in the oven. Okay, so we've got our potatoes kind of cubed up. These are gonna be like the main base for our chicken pesto bowls. So it's gonna be like a potato as our starch for it. There we go. You're all jumping out at me. And then we're gonna coat them with some olive oil, garlic salt, a little bit of pesto, and some Italian spices and oregano. Okay, we're gonna use, let me put these in a big pile. It's a little bit easier if we do it that way. We're gonna use about 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. And then we're gonna add in some pesto, which also has kind of an oil base in it, so that's why you don't need quite as much oil. We're gonna add about 1 tablespoon of pesto. And we're gonna use a little bit of dried oregano.
You got asked for an update on Chef Teddy?
Oh, Chef Teddy, he is doing great. Lack of sleep, yes. He's just been having sleep issues for a while and some breathing issues at night that has like had us go in an ambulance a couple of times, just really scary breathing issues. So we had a sleep study last night. We won't know the results for a couple weeks. And then he'll have a tonsillectomy and an adenectomy, which to move his tonsils and adenoids out in July. We're hoping that will open up his airways because it's almost, they're saying it's not asthma, but it's like his airways are closing up. So we don't know if he has just really small airways and then just has like a panic attack in the middle of the night or something. But I mean, he did great at his testing last night. I did not get any sleep very much. They kept like coming in because he kept pulling off a lead and he was like all attached, and poor guy, but he did great. We're gonna sprinkle on, so we have our Italian spices, our oregano, and then about 1 teaspoon of garlic salt, because you don't need too much with that pesto, it already has some. And now we're gonna coat it up with all of our good spices, and then we'll spread them out. And then I'm gonna pop this in the oven to start roasting up. But you just make sure you get your potato completely coated in all of these good seasonings. Break any apart that need to. Okay. And I'm gonna wash my hands real quick before I pick up the tray and pop it in. But then we'll bring it into the oven. Okay, so these are gonna roast at 350 until the end of the meal. If I was not making a crisp with them, I would probably do them at either a 400 or a 425. But since we have the mango crisp going, we're gonna keep it at a 350. So we've got that going in there, and we'll let those cook up. And we're gonna now start prepping our mango crisp. So I've got 3 big mangoes here. I was trying to figure out, I have a whole bunch of mangoes, they were on sale, and so I was like, ooh, what should I do with them? And I decided a mango crisp sounded delicious. Okay, so mangoes are kind of a funky fruit to cut up because they have that big pit in the middle, but they're not hard, so don't shy away from them. I just kind of like cut off chunks and then peel that skin away. Sometimes when they're super ripe, that skin will just peel right off. But there we go. So I'm just gonna kind of cut out our things and then we'll cube it up. You could also use frozen mangoes for this, frozen mangoes chunks. They work great. You just bring them up to room temperature first before you use them so they don't take forever to cook up. So here we go. First part done. Just gonna start peeling off some of this skin and then we'll cut it as close to that kind of pit that it has in the middle of the mango. I love mangoes, but they are not a fun fruit to cut up. There we go. But they're so good in the summertime. I love making mango ice cream with them. And I'm sitting here and I used to have an ice cream maker and I have no idea where it is. And so now I'm thinking I need to get a new ice cream maker so that I can make, I'm deciding whether to get one that is the attachment to the KitchenAid or get this new Cuisinart one that they have out, which is supposed to be really fast to get your ice cream. But I can't find mine. And so, and I think when I was teaching, I think I left it at my school when I left, and I think it's there somewhere. I used to make ice cream in my classroom with the kids all the time. Okay, looks like we've got almost all the mango off of this one. So I'm just gonna chop it up and then we're gonna add it in to, oh, that is sliding away from me, our little saucier pan. So just do kind of a loose chop on it. You don't have to have them super small. You know, just enough to have little bite-sized pieces so you don't have a huge chunk. But this is gonna be for our mango crisp. So the other day I did a peach crisp and it was such a hit. So I was like, oh, I'll do a mango crisp today. And they have very similar flavor profiles. So it's delicious, except with the peach crisp, I added cinnamon and a little dash of nutmeg. This one, we're just gonna use lemon juice and really let the mangoes kind of be tart and sweet by themselves without adding any extra spices. But they'll cook up just lovely. Let's cut this down. Chop it up. We'll add about a 1/3 cup of sugar with this, just helps sweeten it up and then to make a nice little syrup. I don't add any cornstarch in mine. I just let the syrup thicken up on its own and then it will soak into kind of the crisp base. Let's get these skins off and then we're gonna start chopping them up.
You got a question? Are crisps difficult to make?
Oh no, they're really, really easy. It's one of the, like, I feel like the easiest desserts that you can make. You just kind of throw ingredients together at the end and bake it. So we're just gonna heat up sugar and mangoes and lemon juice and a little pinch of salt. And then we let that cook for a few minutes while we make up the base. And then the base is gonna be like a streusel. So just butter, flour, oats, and brown sugar. So it's really, really simple. It's much easier than a pie. I actually like making crisps over pie. They have a very similar flavor, but I don't have to make a pie crust, which can be a lot more work. There we go. Although I think next time, I always say, I'm like, oh, always surprised at how much I dislike cutting up mangoes. Most of the time, like Torin loves mangoes, and I just like barely slice it up for him, and I'm like, just suck it off the skins. Okay. And last one in. This one feels nice and soft. And so we're gonna have our mangoes go into the saucier pan. And then we will add our sugar and a pinch of salt and lemon juice, and we'll start boiling it up. And nice, create it, and then we're gonna make our crisp base. And after that, we will start on our chicken bowls. Cut this nice. The mango up, but I feel like, you know, in the summertime, mangoes can get so cheap. Sometimes you can get them like 3 for like $2, or sometimes you can get them like 50 cents a piece, even cheap, you know. And so it's just like, it's a great fruit. You get a lot of fruit on them for each one.
You have a question. So 3 mangoes is enough for this crisp?
Yes. I mean, and this isn't a super huge crisp. This is just a like kind of a lunchtime dessert with it, our things. So this will be enough for everybody to have, and we're feeding 7 at lunch today, so for everyone to have a serving for it. But nice, like good, like cup size serving. Here we go. Because we'll put this base right on top of it, and that adds a little bit more body for it, so it's kind of nice. And all the juices will soak up into the bottom part of the crisp, and will be absolutely lovely. Okay, let's cut these off. And I will say, my 3 mangoes is gonna yield more base to my crisp than my 6 peaches did last week. I made a peach crisp last week, and my 6 peaches were like non-existent. You know, those really soak up, but these have a lot more body to them. There we go. And just about done here. I always make sure I cut off all the little bits from like the next to the core, the pit of it. It's a stone fruit. Just try to slide your knife along it. Don't get too close that you bring off some of those little shaggy woody bits, but close enough to just get nice fruit so you're not wasting any. I think I can get one more off. There we go. Okay, got these over here. I'm just gonna slide all of this over here, and then we are going to start adding in our sugar and all that jazz. Okay, let's turn on our back burner, get it warming up. We are going to add in a 1/3 cup of sugar. You don't need too much. The natural fruit in and of itself, it has a nice, lovely sweetness to it, so you don't need to add a lot, because it will just soak out its like natural juices to sweeten it up. And I find with crisp, you have a richer crumb top on it, so you don't need the base to be super sweet. So we got a 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, and then we're gonna add in some fresh lemon juice. And we want about a tablespoon. So this, depending on how juicy your lemon is, it's gonna be about 1/2 a lemon. There we go. And I'm just gonna pick out the 2 seeds that I found in here. There we go. And let me give it a nice stir. Let it start kind of heating up, and it will start sweating out its natural juices, and then that sugar is going to kind of thicken up into a syrup. So let's let those. I'm going to sprinkle over with a little tiny bit of salt. Let's see. There we go. So like a sprinkle, a dash. I know that's like knows hardly any salt for me, but a little bit of the salt just really enhances the fruit flavor. So it is quite lovely. Okay, let's let that heat up. While we're doing that, let's make the base for our crisp. I've got a stick of butter, so a 1/2 cup of butter melted. Here we go. And then we are going to add in a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And we're gonna mix this up, and then we'll add in oats, and then lastly we will add in a little bit of salt, baking powder, and flour. Let me press it down. You want it firmly packed, 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And that's why I said this, the topping on it is gonna have a really lovely flavor. Let's give this a mix first. I always like to mix the brown sugar into the butter so that it kind of starts that creaming process and gets mixed up well. Let's add in, we're gonna add in about 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And that's gonna give it kind of a little puff up in there. So 1/2. And then 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. We're gonna mix it until it's all mixed around the butter. Then we're gonna add in our oats, 1/2 cup of oats, and then we'll add in our flour, which takes anywhere, it's really typically around 3/4 of a cup, but I start with 1/2 and then I add until I get the right texture. Okay, we've got those mixed up. Now let's add in our oats. And I always do the flour last because I like the oat mixture to get completely covered in the brown sugar and butter because it just makes it turn out nicer.
You have a question? For someone that has a lot of peaches, can you use peaches?
Yes, you can use peaches. Actually, just last week, I did a variation of this recipe with peaches, but I added into my mangoes, I added in cinnamon and then also in my face. I have that video posted on our link on our page, and it should say peach crisp in the title with it. But yes, you can make it with peaches, and it's delicious. We had it last week, and my husband, who does not like peaches, loved it. So I always keep saying, I'm like, you just think you don't like peaches. Okay, so we are going to add in our flour. So see how we've got our oats nice and coated up here? Perfect. Now we're gonna add in our flour, and we're gonna start with 1/2 cup, and then we'll add a little bit more in to get to the right crumb on our little crisp topping. So it's probably gonna end around 3/4 of a cup, but I don't wanna have too much flour in it. I want it to have a really nice kind of thick crumb. So we need a little bit more of this. This is more like a paste. So you want it to be more crumbly. So I'm gonna add the other 1/4 of a cup, and let's see how that looks. And what you want is just really big, thick balls kind of falling apart, but not really sticking all together. So there we go. And I might add maybe a tablespoon more. So not much, just a little bit more to get the perfect kind of crumb texture. You don't want it floury, but just like, there we go. You see how it's sticking together, but it's not like super crumbly. It has like nice little chunks. Okay, here is our mangoes. You can see they're sweating out now. Looking gorgeous. Give it a nice stir. And then I'm gonna push all of it down. I love doing mine in my little Dutch oven here because you can start it on the stove, which starts the cooking process, and then you can finish it off in the oven versus, you know, having to transfer it or doing it in a baking dish. I think it just helps the fruit get more tender. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this crumb and we're gonna sprinkle this over the top of our mangoes. And then we're gonna pop this in the oven until we're ready to eat lunch. So just sprinkle and make a nice layer over the whole top. And what happens is the juices from the mango will start soaking up from the bottom, but the top will get nice and crispy, and it's just lovely. Here we go. And you just kind of evenly put it over the whole thing so that it all like has a nice thick layer. And with the baking powder in here, this layer is actually gonna grow a little. So there we go. So we've got, I kind of made a little mess per usual. Let's throw this in the oven and then we can start working on dinner. Now I'm gonna move my potatoes down a level so that my crisp can get the nice top heat. But look at them, they're cooking up nicely. Beautiful. Okay, we've got our crisp. It's going right in there and it's gonna start cooking up. And that takes about 25 to 30 minutes, which should be by the time we're done with the rest of our lunch. So I'm gonna wash my hands real quick and we'll start prepping. That's why I say crisps are really easy. You get a lot of the similar flavor profiles of a pie without all the work, you know, because pie crust can be a lot of work. Okay, let's get our chicken, I'll start actually with our onions sauteing, and then we're gonna get our chicken marinated and cooking up. Okay, let me add in a little bit of olive oil over here.
You have a question? Was there anything in the pan with the mangoes?
Lemon juice and a 1/3 cup of sugar. So, and then a pinch of salt. And that lemon juice is gonna help the mangoes keep their kind of tart flavor with the added of the sugar. And it also helps kind of add a bit more juice to it. And then the sugar, of course, is gonna thicken up into like a syrup when you cook it. And again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever wanna recreate it at home, you can just go and rewatch it and follow along with me there. But it's super simple. Here we go. So we've got one big yellow onion. I'm going to cut nice kind of thin strips for this, and then I'm gonna cut them in half, just like that, so they're not super long. I want them thin and about 1.5 inches long. That way they're not like onion strings. There we go. So I've got these. I'm gonna add these over here to my olive oil. We're gonna let them saute up. This is gonna be one of the veggies in our bowl. Caramelized onions, I think, are so good. They add so much flavor. So we're just gonna break them up and let them start to kind of caramelize here. I'm tossing them with my tongs so that they all get kind of coated with the olive oil. Of course, I seem to be flying them out. There we go. I just like to help them break up so that they all can caramelize instead of just like one side of them. There we go. So we're gonna let those caramelize. I'm gonna turn mine down to about a 6, so like a medium high.
You have a question? What's your husband's favorite food that you make?
So my husband's favorite food to make is probably
that you make.
Oh, that I make. Oh yeah, my husband doesn't make any food. He can make himself some toast. It's probably ravioli. He loves my ravioli. Actually, it's like one of those in my whole, everybody loves it. But that's like, I made it once. There is a video of it on there of my ravioli. It is a labor of love, but it is so good. I love it. And it's so funny because he's not truly a pasta guy, but he absolutely loves the ravioli. Okay, let's prep our green beans that we're gonna have. We're gonna have these roast in the oven as well, if they wanna open for me. So we're gonna roast these up, and then we're gonna also saute up some spinach, and then we'll do our chicken. There we go, about time. We're just gonna, I'm gonna pop these in once we probably start doing our chicken, because these only take about 8 to 10 minutes to cook up. And we're just gonna do them really simple today. So we'll just use about half of our bag. I will say, I love the convenience of getting the washed and trimmed is so much easier, because you might have one that you need to like pick a stem off, but if you've ever had to like de-stem a whole pound or 2 of green beans, it is awful. Okay, let's see. We're gonna put about a tablespoon of olive oil on here. And then we're gonna give a nice shake of garlic salt. And then I'm gonna grab my black pepper. There we go. Probably using about a half a teaspoon here. Or sprinkle it over that pepper with the oil. It really like brings out its intensity, and I feel like it goes so well with green beans. We're gonna give them a nice coat. And just kind of cover them up. And that way, when we're ready to go in, we'll just pop them in. So I'm gonna set this over here. There we go. Let's give our onions a little toss. And we're starting to get some caramelization going. We're getting some nice browning. And heating them up slowly over the heat just by themselves allows their natural sugars to brown, which is called caramelizing, and it gives them such a sweet, savory flavor. They're just quite lovely. Towards the end, I'll add a little bit of salt, but I just let them caramelize on their own in the olive oil until the very end. Okay, let's prep up, get ready for our chicken. I've got some fresh herbs here that we're gonna use. I picked them from my garden earlier and we rinsed them, so we have some basil. And now I'm gonna de-thread, we have some oregano, parsley, and thyme. And then we're also gonna use some fresh lemon juice and then some dried herbs as well to season up our chicken. But I'm gonna make a nice kind of herby paste to go on it. The parsley, you don't really have to do much, or the basil. The thyme and the oregano, you're gonna wanna try to get those little stems out because otherwise they're just going to be chewy on your chicken. There we go. And just a few more. I have two types of oregano. I have Greek oregano and then regular oregano. And then I have lemon thyme and English thyme. So they're all like in the same family and they taste very similar. But you know, I just have to buy them all when I'm out there. I always feel like when I go and do my little Home Depot trip to get all my herbs at the beginning of the season, I feel like I spend so much money on the plants. But in the long run, it will save you a lot more money instead of buying a bunch of fresh herbs. And if you're really good, you could learn how to dry your own herbs. And then you could save even more money year round. There we go. So we're gonna mince these up and make a nice little herby blend. There we go. And we're gonna put this on our chicken after I'm gonna fillet them and then slice them up so that we have some nice little chicken strips, and then we'll toss them with this nice little herby mix. Okay, that should be good. One more time over. There we go. So we've got our minced up herbs, and that will be ready to go. Before I get into the chicken and my hands get dirty, I'm gonna give these one more toss. But I'm gonna be cooking these until they turn nice and golden brown for the sauteed onion component of our bowl. Now we're gonna do our chicken, and we're gonna fillet each one in half, and then I'm gonna slice them up. That way we don't have really big pieces of chicken. You want them to kind of be a little bit smaller since they're in the bowl. So I'm just gonna fillet them in half, and then I'm gonna cut off any white bits that I see. That's the fat, and those will chicken fat just gets rubbery. So it doesn't cook up fat on a steak on a grill where it can really crisp up. Chicken fat won't do that unless you're deep frying it. So let's get this. And then I'm gonna remove, is there any fat there? Just a little bit. And then we'll go back through and we're gonna slice these up nice into little thin strips so that we can cook them pretty fast over high heat so they'll remain nice and tender and also get a good sear on them. This one looks like it has a pretty good piece of fat. And let's fillet this. And by cutting it thinner, it's going to allow your chicken to cook up more evenly. You don't have to worry about it getting being like undone because you cut it in half, which means you cut your cooking time in half. Okay, now let's go make some little strips. And that way we'll have some nice little chicken strips to toss in our bowl. And if you cut against the grain of your chicken versus with it, which will give you a bit more of a shaggy cut, but it will be a more tender chicken. Cutting against the grain makes it a bit more tender. There we go. So our next set done. And there's no really like precision in what size I'm making. I'm just nice little thin strips. I always just think, what would be a good bite size on a fork, because that's how we're gonna eat it, like a little bowl. There. And I think I just have 3 more left after this. There we go. But this will be, we're gonna season it with some of our, our herb blend, which was fresh basil, thyme, oregano, and parsley. And then we're gonna use some dried oregano on top of that and some Italian seasoning, garlic, salt, and lemon juice. And then we'll saute it up in olive oil. And then we're gonna make a little bit of a pesto with some spinach, and we'll saute up some spinach. There we go, nice and diced up. I'm gonna hand a quick rinse. Okay, let's give these onions a nice toss. There we go. Perfect, they're getting there. I want them to be, you see how we've got some nice browning on some of them? I want like 80 to 90% to look like that. We still have some that are white and not translucent. So they aren't going to have, they're still like uncooked. Once you get them past the white into the translucent, that's when they're gonna be tender and less astringent in flavor. Okay, let's squeeze some lemon juice over it. I had 2 like half-used lemons in my fridge, so we're gonna use that. The acid in here is going to really make that tender or chicken nice and juicy. So this one actually had a lot of juice, so we might just use 1. Pick out these 2 lemon seeds, 3 lemon seeds. Keep those to the side. Okay, we're gonna use a little bit of Italian spices, about a teaspoon. We're gonna use about a teaspoon a teaspoon and a half of garlic salt, so just a really good shake over. And then we're gonna use a little bit of dried oregano, about a half a teaspoon. And now we're gonna put in our nice lovely herbs here that we minced up. And then I'm going to use my tongs to kind of turn them in there. You could put this all in a bowl if you wanted to, but I think my cutting board's large enough that I can cover them all without them going flying. And now this is a marinade that you can make in advance if you wanted, or you can pop it in right at there. It works both ways. I will say that the longer it sits in the lemon juice, the more fragrant that lemon flavor will be. And same with the herbs, but I used a lot of spices in there, which kind of makes up for not having a long marinade time. Okay. Those are looking good. Nice little coverage on all of our little chicken here. And then we'll saute it. We might saute it in batches depending on how much it covers, because you want your chicken to all have its own little space on the pan. Otherwise it won't crisp up as nice. Here we go. Now we're getting this lovely crispiness on our onions. And we're gonna go pop our green beans in the oven since we have about 10 minutes left. The crisp has been in there for about 15 minutes now. So we have 10 minutes and we have about 10 minutes left in meal prep. Look at the beautiful, our potatoes there. So I'm gonna rotate this and we're gonna move this to the side. And I'm gonna put my green beans right there. And then I'm gonna set my timer for 10 minutes, since that should be the rest of, it's kind of my knowing when I'm getting close. Okay, our onions are looking fantastic. I'm gonna sprinkle them with a little bit of garlic salt now, and then I'm gonna transfer them to a bowl because we're gonna toast up our spinach in here. So I'm just gonna let them heat up real quick with some of our garlic salt, but I always add it towards the end because with garlic salt, it can burn down on your pan if it runs out of the oil or like the liquid. So I always add it towards the end. There we go. Let me grab a small bowl to put these in. And then I'm gonna put my warmer on, and that will keep this little ceramic plate nice and hot. There we go. So these are our caramelized crispy onions that we'll have on our little chicken pesto bowl. There we go. And I'm gonna pour some olive oil in here to start sauteing up our chicken. There we go. We want to just, since it's a big pan, I want a nice thin coating of it because I know I'm going to have to do 2 batches and I don't want to have to heat up my, add more in the middle of it. Okay, let me get this turned on. We're going to let it start warming up, and when it's nice and hot, then we will add the chicken in. But you don't want to add it in when it's cold. Now we're going to do a little bit of our spinach. So I put in about a tablespoon of olive oil, actually a teaspoon of olive oil. And we're gonna turn this down to about a 4. And we're gonna add in our baby spinach, and we're gonna let it wilt up. And then we'll add a little bit of garlic salt and Parmesan cheese at the very end. We're gonna let it have its first batch in. And then we'll add some more once this is wilted down. But I'm just gonna kind of stir to get it all kind of coated. There we go. And now I'm cooking this at about a 3 to 4, so it doesn't get too hot. We want it to kind of do a slow reduction. Okay, let's make a little bit of a kind of creamy pesto here. We're gonna start, I actually use a little bit of my spinach in here, add a bit more base to it, because we're taking our kind of our store-bought pesto, and then we're just gonna add a bit to it. Now I'm really picky about my store-bought pestos. I only like 2 kinds. I like Kirkland's pesto, like their base, and I like Rana's or Rana's, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I like their pestos. I think they have good flavors to them. So we've got about a 1/2 cup of spinach in here. We're gonna add in about 2 tablespoons of pesto. And a little bit of heavy cream, about 2 tablespoons, so kind of equal parts. And we're just gonna give this a nice little blend, and that's gonna be kind of our sauce that we're gonna put over our bowl. I might need to add a little bit more, but we'll see. Do a little shake, mix it up. That way, otherwise you'll get a big kind of like chunky leaf in there. So we'll mix it, and then we're gonna do another one. Okay, let's see how it's looking. There we go. We've got a pretty nice little paste. I might add a bit more cream to it because I want it to be a little bit thinner. So we'll do a little bit more cream and a little bit more pesto. You ideally want it to be a nice pourable sauce, not one that you have to spoon over. So just a little bit. And then our chicken should be nice and hot and ready for us to add in here. But I do love my little Ninja because it has this tiny little blender bottle, which goes really great with it. There, that should be perfect amount. Now we've got a much nicer little sauce here. And that's that's nice and thick because the cream, as you whip it, it like turns into almost like a savory whipped cream, but then it melts over your chicken. Okay, let's add in our next batch of spinach, and then we're gonna put our chicken in because our oil looks like it's nice and hot. We'll do our bubble test. You just drop a drop of water in it, it sizzles right away. Look, it is nice and hot. I'm going to turn it down to a medium, like a 5-6, so that it will like crisp up nicely without burning. There's my dog over there coughing up a fur ball, if you guys can hear him. I have little tabbies, and they have short snouts, and they're always like getting fur or something stuck in there. Okay, we're going to put a nice thin layer of our chicken on here. I want to just make sure each piece is getting part of that bottom of that pan. If you try to put all of your chicken in at one time, what will happen is that chicken will seize, then all the liquid will come out, and instead of getting a nice kind of crispy edge on your chicken, you're going to get just a bunch of juices. Let me grab a spoon. There we go. Look at this nice, our little pesto that we made with the spinach and the cream. And the nice thing about it is when this hits the warm food, because that cream is in the whipped cream form being blended, it's going to melt down into a lovely sauce. Okay, let's get our spinach here. We've got it nice and wilting. I'm going to add our last batch in there. And we're going to saute it up. Then I'll add a little bit of garlic salt and Parmesan cheese. There we go. Let's just add this last bit in. Okay. We're going to give this a nice little turning, kind of coat it. And I will say, spinach is one of those things where it has a great disappearing act. You start with a lot, and you end with next to nothing. There. Add that back in. And turn it down even lower to about a 2 now. I'm going to start flipping my chicken here. I'm getting these nice kind of golden crust on it. Beautiful. And you know, I always know when to flip it over is when you see it, you see the pink, like the white is approaching up over the pink, which means that it's mostly cooked through. And then we'll just sear off on our other side. And then I'll transfer this to a little plate and we'll put the next batch in. There we go. Just flip them all over. And as I said, you want to do it, it's kind of like when we cook our steak too. You do it in smaller batches so you can get that nice kind of good sear on it, and so that it doesn't get like super liquidy. If you throw in all of your meat at one time, what happens is it's not hot enough anymore, and then the liquids, the natural juices in it start to kind of leak out. And then you can't get that nice little crispy sear on it. So we're gonna have that finish up here. Look at our beautiful spinach is just about perfect. And we're gonna add a smidge of garlic salt. And then I'm gonna give it a quick toss, and then I'm gonna put some Parmesan cheese over it so that it can kind of melt over the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off because you don't want it to completely melt. You want it to slow melt. So we're going to sprinkle it over and have it slow melt over our spinach. And this is just shaved Parmesan. Absolutely love it. I got it from Costco. It's my favorite because it gives you nice, really big sheets of Parmesan. Okay. These are just about ready for the first batch. I'm going to get a little bowl to put these in. Give them a nice little toss. Okay. We're going to go grab our potatoes and stuff in just a second. I'm just going to pop these out, and then we're going to go grab them because that's starting to beat. But I want to get these going in. Whoop. Lost them. And you see my oil is still nice and hot, so that when I put my next batch in, it's going to sear up nicely as well. And this one I should be able to fit this whole batch in here. And then we'll go get our potatoes, our green beans, and our crisp out of the oven. Because it's all should be done just about now. Add all of this good chicken in. And I think I can get these last ones in. There we go. Okay. Let's go get our crisp and stuff. I'm going to clear this so I have a spot to come by and put it. Okay, I hear ya. will say my oven, that's the one thing. It does not let you forget about your food. It does like to beep incessantly. Okay. Look at our beautiful crisp, and our green beans are nice and vibrant, and our potatoes are looking amazing. This is our mango crisp. I'm gonna slide that up. Look at that. You can actually see the beautiful mango juices bubbling up over the edges. It is looking gorgeous. And now let's go grab our potatoes and our green beans. Do the potatoes. These were our herby roasted potatoes. I'm going to grab another little trivet here. We've got them coated in all of our nice toasty herbs. Italian spices, oregano, garlic, salt, and pesto. And now I'm going to go get our green beans. Okay, and now we have our oven roasted green beans. You see how they have such a vibrant color to them? That means they're going to have that nice tender crisp. They've got garlic, salt, and black pepper on. And then, of course, one more dazzling view over our mango crisp here. You see that nice golden gel popping up the side? That is from the mangoes. That is the juice that has turned into a nice thick syrup. And it's going to be a tangy, sweet, and awesome. Okay. Let's flip our chicken here and see if it's ready. Yep. We're going to flip it, but then I'll be able to make up our first bowl and show you guys how we're going to serve up our lunch today. But look at this. This is that sear I'm talking about, that nice golden brown sear on it. Looking gorgeous. Give this a nice toss. Perfect. And then we're going to make up our chicken pesto bowl. Let those cook. Let me get my pesto sauce over here because this is going to be the star of it. I love pesto. Okay. And grab a spatula. I've got my tongs. And we are going to be ready to start up. Let's start with our potatoes. We are going to put our crispy pesto roasted potatoes. These are going to be our good kind of starchy base in our bowl. And then we are going to add in our green beans, our oven roasted green beans with garlic salt and black pepper. And next we're gonna add in our sauteed spinach with Parmesan cheese. Then our crispy onions. And now we're gonna top it off with our sauteed chicken with those fresh herbs from our garden. And then of course, last but definitely not least in here, we have our creamy spinach basil pesto sauce that we're gonna pour over it. That's going to add a bunch of flavor to it. And then let me show you guys what our crisp looks like in here. So I'm gonna scoop in to our mango crisp here. And do you see, look at that beautiful mango, that nice layer of golden crisp oats on the top. So good, just so delicious. Well guys, thank you so much for joining us here today.
You have a question? Do you know what's for dinner yet?
I don't know what's for dinner yet today. It's kind of up in the air. I've been thinking about it. I might make Teddy's favorite, which is spaghetti and meatballs, but I'm not sure. I kind of feel bad for the guy. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on the page. So if you ever want to recreate any of our recipes at home, you can just go to that link and search for the video and you can. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront on our profile page as well. So pretty much all of the cooking gear that I use here, I have uploaded to my storefront. So if you were wondering what type of pan this was, like this is my 2 1/4 quart saucier pan from Le Creuset. I have all that stuff in my Amazon storefront, so if you're interested and you want to check it out, go right ahead. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.